What if Padme survived? Perhaps the most loaded question we have addressed on this channel to this point in terms of its potential impact on the story. It's a simple change, but the ramifications and potential effects are virtually endless. Anakin Skywalker's fear of losing Padme in childbirth is the #1 motivator for his fall to the dark side, and the loss of Padme in the end, which ultimately occurs as a result of his turn, solidifies Vader's allegiance to Palpatine and consequently robs their children Luke and Leia of their true mother as well. So what if Padme hadn't died? What would her survival have meant for the Skywalker twins, for the Jedi, for Darth Vader, and for the galaxy at large? In this video, we will explore the potential impact of Padme's survival for any and all parties who may have been affected, so buckle up my friends as we embark on a brand new journey and seek to answer the pivotal question: what if Padme Amidala survived Revenge of the Sith? Exile. From a wealthy and respected senator and queen to a single mother in hiding on some uncivilized, untamed moon on the edge of the Outer Rim. It had been 8 months. 8 months of just her children, these 2 droids, and the occasional visit from Obi-Wan Kenobi. It seemed like just yesterday when she'd broken the news of her pregnancy to Anakin. He'd been scared at the time, understandably so, but he was also excited. Annie was going to be a great father, but the man she'd loved such a short time before was now gone. She didn't want to believe the horrifying truths Obi-Wan had shared with her at the time, but Anakin had shown her what he'd become on Mustafar. It was all true. Anakin had changed, and now he was dead. Manipulated and possessed by Palpatine, Anakin had upended the entire galaxy, paving the way for the Empire's ascension, and then he was left to die. She resented what her life had become. She hated the Empire. She hated Palpatine. Part of her was even upset with Obi-Wan. Anakin was his apprentice after all. He was not free of blame here. But he'd dedicated his life to protecting her and her children now. Obi-Wan was selfless. He was a good man. She knew that, and she respected him a great deal, but she couldn't help but wonder where the Jedi Master had gone wrong, and why he hadn't fought harder to bring Anakin back to the light as he fell further and further into darkness. It didn't matter now. None of it mattered. This was her new reality, and if they were lucky, things would remain this way for the foreseeable future. Her children had to be hidden from the Emperor at all costs. Aboard his personal dreadnought, Darth Vader stood in his quarters, watching the stars off in the distance, thinking, reflecting on the day he'd finally broken free from the shackles of the Jedi Order. The day he'd saved the Supreme Chancellor from Mace Windu. The day he'd finally made the Jedi pay for their treachery. He'd saved the galaxy from the Jedi. He'd saved the younglings from the hypocrisy and betrayal he himself had been subjected to. He eliminated the Separatists, preventing further corruption. Vader didn't have many regrets about that day. But there was one mistake for which he would never forgive himself. Padme. Padme was gone, and he could not blame anyone but himself. He hated that reality. He hated Obi-Wan. He hated Palpatine. He hated who he'd now become. But even more, he hated who he used to be. He hated everything about everything. But this was his life now. His power was all he had, and so he would accumulate as much of that as he possibly could. Padme sat inside of her small wooden home, buried deep in the jungle of Yavin 4. The twins played in another room, while their mother read over scandalous reports of the next great thing the Empire was doing for the people of the galaxy. Across the room, a radar sounds, warning her of a small incoming ship. Obi-Wan. Establishing an identifiable routine was dangerous, and so Kenobi's visits were always unannounced. By his design, they were random, but every now and again Obi-Wan would drop in, delivering supplies and updates on the Empire's movements, and checking in on Padme and her children. This time, Obi-Wan brought a friend. It was now the 3rd time he'd brought this accomplice along in the last year. It was Padme's idea, after all. She insisted, actually, that this particular figure be involved in her children's future. Padme, being the brave and strong-willed woman she was, would understand the importance of her children's role in the big picture. Her decision would absolutely not come without hesitation. After seeing what the Jedi life had done to Anakin, Padme had tremendous fear about what that path could do to her children. But she also understood what the Jedi could do for the people, and why her children specifically were by far and away the galaxy's best bet. After deep consideration, Padme would agree to Obi-Wan's proposal that they be trained, but she she insisted that Ahsoka, the Jedi Padme knew better than any other, be involved. It had been too dangerous in the beginning with the Empire's relentless pursuit of Force sensitives, and Padme hadn't been set on her decision yet either. She still wasn't ready, and probably never would really be. But now, with 4 years having passed, Luke and Leia would begin their Jedi training. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka would gather Luke and Leia, taking the twins to Dagobah, a planet more ambiguous and even less civilized than the Yavin system. Here they would learn the ways of the Force from 3 Jedi who all provided very different perspectives and insights about the Great Mystery, and a collective level of wisdom that could not be matched. From the very beginning, Padme had quietly spearheaded the rebellion's creation. Hiding in the shadows under the codename Fulcrum, the supposedly dead Queen of Naboo had been calling the shots. Her messages passed down from Obi-Wan to Bail Organa, who would then put Padme's wishes into action. But now, she had decided, after another year of solitude, only collaborating personally with Senator Bail Organa, it was time to step out of the shadows. She would still do everything she could to remain hidden from the Empire, but people believed in the face that was Padme Amidala. She was truly a light in the dark. She brought hope where there was nothing left to fight for. She was a powerful and influential figure, a true political rival to the mighty Sheev Palpatine. It was time to take the rebellion's efforts to the next level. Quietly, methodically, Padme would start on her home planet of Naboo, continuing to a number of other systems, speaking only to those who she trusted most, urging them to rally others to join the rebellion. And with Padme leading the charge, the alliance would grow far more quickly and with even greater numbers than before. By the Empire's 10-year anniversary, the Rebel Alliance had already established itself as a significant threat to their reign. But with so many more people becoming aware of their presence, the secrecy which the rebels of the original timeline relied on became far more difficult to maintain. Word traveled fast, and people were not all good. The Empire had not succeeded in their complete galactic takeover without belief and support from the people. Back on Mustafar, Lord Vader is summoned from his Bacta tank. The Empire had significant reason to believe they had uncovered the location of a hidden rebel base. On orders emanating from the Emperor himself, Darth Vader would lead the raid on Florum. This, the place people who wished to join the rebellion were told to go. The Empire would raid the small settlement on foot with overwhelming numbers. Their attack was met with very little resistance. The rebels scattered, some of them fighting, others merely trying to get off-world, but for most of them, there was no escape. Darth Vader stormed down a hallway, entering a room where he would find 2 rebels standing before a hologram, frantically warning their apparent leader of what was happening. Vader reached out, raising the 2 of them off the floor, squeezing their windpipes shut as they dangled, helplessly gasping for air. And then, he dropped them, his own heart dropping harder than their bodies as they hit the floor. The rebels scrambled to their feet, still fighting to regain their breath as they scurried away. He let them go. They didn't matter. He stared at the hologram for a second as the woman before him turned to face him, and then it disappeared. And even then, he continued to stand there, perplexed by what he had just seen. Behind him, a stormtrooper calling out his name, and then proceeding to inform him that the raid was a success, but that a few of the rebels had escaped into the mountains. Vader didn't move. He didn't speak. The trooper would not dare to speak again until spoken to, and so, after a long moment of waiting, he turned back around, leaving the Dark Lord to continue with whatever he was doing. Vader was in complete shock. A Sith Lord unfazed by any and everything he encountered at this point in his life was dumbfounded. For the first time ever, he was relieved to be hidden behind his suit. But even with that security blanket, he felt naked, as if everyone could see just how vulnerable he was right now. He didn't care. Padme was alive, and that reality trumped any of his own insecurities. It would outweigh any and all concerns that may be brought to his attention, even if they came directly from the Emperor's mouth. Padme was all that mattered now. And with that revelation having been made, part 1 of this alternative timeline comes to a close. If you guys enjoyed this video and you are looking forward to seeing a part 2, drop a comment and let me know. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that so you will know when the next video does come out. Have a wonderful day wherever you may be in the world. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, remember, the Force will be with you always.